Under the full moon of White Demon City, a woman floated above the massive castle, purple magical energy radiating from her aura swirling. Below, a man stood at the castle gates, bending over and panting as he expressed himself. The woman in the sky shouted down, "Fake Chenbai of White Demon City." Then she extended her hand, and her beauty gradually turned serious. She resembled a goddess, with purple long hair flowing, a graceful figure like a beautiful statue. She said, "Your failure in this mission has put me in a bad mood." Then she coldly added, "So, die." The man below, named Chenbai, felt lost upon hearing her command. He appeared exhausted, as though he had just completed a mission. Chenbai quickly pointed to his chest and shouted, "Wait, Lady Dark Mother." Then he pleaded, "Please consider my past achievements and give me a chance." The beautiful woman ignored his words, appearing cold and ruthless. She cast a spell, extending her tendrils toward him, and a purple mist surrounded them. She coldly said, "Despicable humans do not deserve a chance. You will be buried with White Demon City." The entire massive castle was surrounded by magical tendrils, with the upper part of the castle destroyed, and everything around it was filled with a sinister magical aura. The ground began to tremble, splitting apart. Chenbai tightly grasped his sword to maintain balance, painfully continuing, "I." The magical tendrils began to assault his body. The tendrils caused various parts of Chenbai's body to detach, and he fell into the endless void. In despair, he thought, "I completed nearly 100 tasks she gave me, but one failure leads to execution." His entire body rapidly fell down. He relaxed his body, no longer caring about the moment, still blaming himself, "Is it just because I'm a despicable human?" He fell into a river, floating on the surface of the water. At this moment, only his upper body emerged, and Chenbai thought, "I refuse to accept this, I won't give in." Ha ha ha. Even though his body was destroyed, he could still laugh. His upper body opened his mouth and laughed loudly, ha ha ha, his laughter filled with regret for his entire life. Then, without realizing it, he suddenly sat up, extended his middle finger, his face full of anger, gritting his teeth and saying, "Dark bastard Heloise. I will take your life." Before Chenbai could say more, the beautiful woman sneered and ruthlessly stepped toward him. She elegantly placed her foot down toward him. Chenbai's upper body was pressed to the riverbed, and his body began to crack and gradually dissipate. At this point, only death awaited him. Surrounded by water, Chenbai gradually lost consciousness, his body relaxing, letting fate take its course. The only thing that flickered was the hourglass hanging from his neck. Suddenly, the hourglass turned over. In this blank spacetime, the scene shifted to another place. It was still our protagonist, Chenbai, still angry, suddenly sitting up, extending his middle finger and angrily cursing, "You foul-mouthed bastard." This young man, Chenbai, as the protagonist of the novel, had been reincarnated into another spacetime after his death, still unable to adapt to this special environment. He suddenly widened his eyes, thinking, "Wait a minute. Didn't I die? Where is this place?" Our protagonist appeared on a bed, suddenly sitting up, looking around in surprise, thinking, "A university dorm? How did I end up here? Didn't I die at that woman's hands? Decades of real trials, how could this be a dream?" Then he looked down at his chest, remembering the hourglass and exclaiming, "Wait, the hourglass." He then recalled, "I got this hourglass as a tool at the start of my 20-year trial. From the moment the will of the universe descended, this was the most unique item I had ever seen. It has no attributes and cannot be destroyed. So I have kept it with me. The sand always stays at the bottom, even when turned upside down, but now it's at the top." He picked up his phone, holding it tightly, furrowing his brows and thinking, when the sand reverses time and space, does time flow backward? What is the current time? He opened the calendar on his phone and discovered, June 5, 2032, the will of the universe descended, 10 days until the trial begins. 10 days later, on June 15th, the will of the universe will begin to descend, and the trial will start. More than 90% of humanity will die. Humans will transform into various types of zombies and monsters. All weapons will be ineffective, and the world will face an apocalypse in just one night. However, with the danger brought by the cosmic trial, there is also an opportunity. The survivors will awaken their gifted abilities and obtain many magical items from the instances. Items will also descend to Earth according to the will of the universe. These kind-hearted people have even attracted the gods who control the rules of the universe. These gods cannot directly participate in the trial, so they attract humans to rely on them under the guise of protection to gain benefits. My previous strength was not strong, and I had to work hard to join General Herlois's ranks. I worked desperately to complete the tasks she gave me and tried to improve my position. But unexpectedly, I was erased due to a failed mission. Back to the present, our protagonist is checking the news on his phone. He is engrossed in reading each article, thinking whether it's a new plague or zombies from a movie. Patients at Longcheng First Hospital suddenly go berserk and bite people. A terrifying and strange event occurred when the forensic doctor in Jiangcheng suddenly woke up during an autopsy. Understanding the situation of the era, our protagonist stood up. Gripping his phone tightly, he expressed determination and thought seriously, "This time, I must become stronger, strong enough that I no longer need to rely on anyone or any gods. I must be strong enough to stand over the gods." Herlois, just wait. The scene shifts to Jiangcheng First Central Hospital. Our protagonist walks into the hospital wearing a loose coat that hides his face. As he walks through the hospital, he thinks the trial begins in 10 years, and someone once said they knew the only way to upgrade talents. He said, the talent activates 10 days before the trial starts, and if you can discover and use your talent, you can upgrade it. Chen Bai walks down the hospital corridor, his body covered in clothing, hands in his pockets, looking out the window, thinking, in my past life, my talent was antivirus E-grade. Based on this, I think I need to use the virus to activate and enhance my talent. Hidden in the corner, Chen Bai eavesdropped on the conversation between the doctor and nurse. The doctor looked at the data in his hand and said, "This is a strange symptom, never seen before." The nurse responded with confusion, "I think this patient looks like something from a movie." After they left, Chen Bai entered the room. At the end of the room, there was a hospital bed with tied-up legs behind the curtain. The man lying on the bed had bulging facial muscles, eyes without pupils, and sharp fangs growing, looking unlike a human. Now, Chen Bai stands beside the bed, holding a syringe and looking at the patient in front of him, saying, "It's really a zombie." He calmly inserted the needle into the zombie's arm vein while grabbing the zombie's hand and saying, "I want to use you to practice my antivirus talent, so I can only rely on you." The needle inserted into the largest vein, slowly extracting purple liquid. Chen Bai held the syringe, which contained purple-red liquid, brought it up to his eyes, and said, "This should be enough to activate my talent." When he returned to the dorm, his roommate hadn't come back yet. Chen Bai looked around and thought, no one's returned to the dorm, looks like they'll be playing games tonight and won't come back. At this moment, he took out the syringe filled with viral liquid, staring at it thoughtfully, his face showing some hesitation. He thought, what if I'm wrong? I might die here. His mind was filled with indecision. But Chen Bai still decided to decisively insert the needle into his hand and inject the viral liquid into his body. He gritted his teeth, his body trembling, and silently thought, no matter what, my E-grade talent was too weak before. For survival, I have to fight for 10 years just to make a little breakthrough. When the needle was pulled out of his hand, the veins on Chen Bai's body became swollen and purple, and the virus was gradually spreading inside him. He held his swollen hand, gritting his teeth as he endured the intense pain in his body. Many purple veins had already appeared, extending to his face. At this moment, Bai silently thought, if my talent awakens at E level again, even though I know I'll miss the chance. Due to my weakness in the future, I'd rather die early than stay weak after being reborn. Bai's limbs began to twitch, and he collapsed to the ground, his body seeming to fall into intense pain and exhaustion. All Bai could hear was his own heavy breathing. At this moment, in his subconscious, he was crawling in an empty place, struggling against the pain, and in front of him was a floating woman named Herlois. He could still see himself fighting the virus inside his body, so he couldn't stand up, but he could still hear Herlois calling him. Come on, Bai. Herlois' image and the glowing purple light appeared in front of him. She opened her arms, with a saintly maternal image, and said, give up resisting and join the darkness. As a humble human, becoming part of the darkness is the best outcome for you. His whole body went limp as he supported himself with his hands in the emptiness. Bai painfully managed to say a few words, Herlois. Then, Bai raised his head, and with sharp eyes, he stared directly at Herlois, his face full of purple veins, and firmly said, I will conquer you. How could I just fall here? The entire night was immersed in pain. The next morning, in Bai's dormitory, our protagonist was now able to stand. He staggered forward, his limbs stiff, looking like a zombie as he walked out of the room. At this moment, the door to the hallway was opened. Bai turned around, his face covered in red liquid flowing from his eyes and mouth, with purple veins bulging from his neck, and his eyes were a milky white, looking like a zombie. The three young men living with him were horrified at this sight, their faces turned pale as they screamed, ah ah ah. At this point, one person was holding a broom in defense, another assumed a defensive posture, and the third hid behind the door. Bai approached them in an unusual posture, his arms bent, causing the three to lose their composure even more. They shouted his name, Bai. These words once again woke up our protagonist, his eyes widened as he trembled, as if just waking up, with a confused look. This situation was incredibly awkward, and Bai didn't know how to explain himself to his roommates. He stood still for a minute, and the other three young men did the same. Then, Bai showed a friendly expression and looked at them, saying, you guys are back, knowing that he must look strange now. He hurriedly pushed open the bathroom door and made up an excuse, I need to wash my face. His friend, wearing a blue outfit, seemed a little concerned but only gave a perfunctory answer, After closing the door, only Bai remained inside. At this point, he walked toward the mirror, looking at the zombie-like signs on his body, which were gradually fading. Bai smiled with happiness and thought, it worked. That assumption was right, the zombie virus didn't kill me. My talent must have successfully upgraded. Then, Bai raised his hand and touched himself, silently thinking, I wonder what level my talent will be after awakening. Suddenly, a flashing light appeared above his head, as bright as lightning. Below it was a notice that read, Bai, congratulations on being selected as a pioneer and receiving the honor of becoming a pioneer, awakening ahead of time. Our protagonist stared at it for a moment, then seemed to recall something familiar, thinking, is this the voice of the cosmic will? Noticing that he had returned to normal, he started walking forward, continuing to think, if I've awakened, then. Then, he reached out and touched the notice board, happily saying, activate the honor list. The honor list displayed, Pathfinder, only those who use and train their abilities before the trial starts are eligible to possess it. All attributes increase by 5%, experience increases by 10%, awakening attribute list. Reading this, Bai showed a proud smile, excitedly thinking, 100% rose, perfect honor. I feel like I've found the light of life. Bai looked thoughtful, then glanced at the talent board. He immediately reached out to touch a stone tablet, his rough hands gripping it tightly as he began to awaken his talent ability. A system panel appeared, showing the talent, Virus Level King 3S. Our protagonist Bai was absorbing his talent ability. Purple magical energy like fire radiated from his entire body. Behind him, the image of his talent appeared, showing a demon. Covered in spikes. It looked filled with the breath of death and evil spirits, as though it were a true demon king. Chinbai thought about everything he had and began to plan what he needed to do. The king virus is the strongest ability in the virus category. It can absorb, use, control, improve, and even create viruses. He raised a hand, circulating his spiritual energy, and a lightning-like glow flickered on his palm as he thought, but right now, I can only absorb, and the range is very small. I need a lot of viruses to upgrade my ability. Chenbai made up his mind. Hospitals are definitely a good place to acquire viruses. He strode into the gates of First City Hospital, calculating how to easily and smoothly acquire a large amount of viruses. But this time, when Chenbai saw the scene before him, he couldn't help but feel surprised. Outside the hospital, many men and women were desperately fleeing, panicked and overwhelmed by zombies chasing them. People were screaming, "Help, run! It's madness, madness, run!" The zombies were extremely fast, charging straight towards him. A fat man ran up to Chenbai, shouting loudly, "It's the apocalyptic zombies!" Chenbai suddenly snapped back to reality, confused, and asked, "Zombies?" He then let out a low chuckle, thinking to himself, I remember now. In my past life, I heard someone mention that. Before the trial began, Jiang City experienced 3 strange phenomena, one of which was the hospital lockdown. The scene at the moment was extremely chaotic. The zombies jumped into the air, soaring dozens of meters, and crazily pursued the fleeing citizens. Unlike the others who were in a panic, Chenbai showed no fear. He took up a battle stance, thinking, "Looks like this is the blocked-off hospital." He then excitedly shouted, "Looks like I came at just the right time." Chenbai gathered his strength and leaped, charging at a zombie. He soared through the air and reached out to strike the zombie. In an instant, he grabbed the zombie's face with one hand and slammed it to the ground. He quickly used his ability, the King Virus innate skill, virus absorption. The zombie opened its mouth in pain. Faced with the magic flowing from Chenbai's palm, it had no power to resist. Chenbai directly sat on top of the zombie, continuously absorbing its virus. The more he absorbed, the more excited he became, craving for more. He said firmly, "This is great. Absorbing zombie viruses gives me virus points that can be used to strengthen my abilities." This action immediately caught the attention of the remaining zombies. They all turned around and attacked Chenbai. But he stood firm, sneering, "Today, none of you will escape." Meanwhile, on the 4th floor of the hospital, many zombies were looking for people hiding in the closed stalls. At this moment, a blonde man was hiding in a restroom stall, his face pale and full of fear. He muttered, it's over, this door won't hold." The zombie was standing outside his stall, crazily banging on the door, trying to break through. The heavy thuds were deafening. In this dire situation, the only thought in the blonde man's mind was, "There's no way out. I'm going to die." In the same restroom, there was another person. Under the pressure of life and death, he completely lost his rationality. And suddenly burst into laughter, ha 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 ha. However, tears uncontrollably streamed down his face. With the blonde man in the stall was a short-haired female nurse. She collapsed on the floor, tears streaming down, her body trembling as she sobbed, "Head nurse. Director Lee." She struggled to stand up, but saw the blonde man acting strangely. She couldn't help but ask, "Lu Feng, what's wrong?" But he only trembled, not answering. Suddenly, the man revealed his true face. As death approached, he completely lost control and suddenly lunged at the young nurse, his tone wild and terrifying, "I've chased you for so long, and you never agreed. Since we're all going to die, why not let me enjoy myself?" Before that? The girl screamed in terror as she fell to the ground, shouting, "Lu Feng, you're crazy. What are you saying?" Whether it was lucky or unfortunate, at this moment, The zombie's claws suddenly pierced through the restroom door, tearing a large hole.